Did you find anything? Maybe you thought about the fact we don't have records of visits by extraterrestrials in the archives of this time. Maybe about the fact we don't have archaeological evidence of aliens' visits. Maybe you wondered why extraterrestrials would just build pyramids and leave for no reason. All these things can be gathered under a major point: it raises many more questions than it answers. To be scientific, a hypothesis should be parsimonious. It means it should explain facts as simply as possible. Here, we have a much simpler hypothesis. Since the Egyptians were present on site at this time and had a huge motivation to make a tomb for their pharaoh, who was a living god, it is probably them who made the pyramids. Now, someone who believes that the pyramids were built by extraterrestrials may argue that proofs are hidden by the government. But the problem here is that by using such a reasoning you can prove absolutely anything, including the opposite of the conspirationists' beliefs. If you remember, we have already discussed that in the part about fallacies. Here, the government is used as an almighty actor. To be scientifically acceptable, a hypothesis must be refutable. It must be theoretically possible to prove it's wrong by facts. I'm gonna highlight it. To be scientifically acceptable, a hypothesis must be refutable. It must be theoretically possible to prove it's wrong by facts. To make sure you understand, the fact a hypothesis can be proven wrong doesn't mean it is wrong. Let's take two examples of refutable hypotheses tested in my lab. We are studying aging using budding yeast, and at some point, we hypothesized that feeding yeast with a special sugar makes them healthier when they're old. This is refutable and could have been proven wrong if we demonstrated that aged yeast fed with this sugar were not healthier than yeast fed with normal sugar. However, we observed that they were healthier. Therefore, according to this experiment, the hypothesis feeding yeast with special sugars makes them healthier when they're old is true. Here, you have an example of a refutable but true hypothesis. We then supposed that feeding yeast with this special sugar makes them live longer. To test that, we simply fed yeast with a special sugar or normal sugar, waited until they die of old age and measured their lifespan. As you can see on this graph, yeast fed with the special sugar did not live longer. Our hypothesis was refutable. It is possible to prove it wrong by facts. And by doing an experiment, we proved it was wrong. So to find the truth as a scientist, you have to gather facts and explain them with parsimonious and refutable hypotheses. And then, test your hypothesis. Now, time to complete the parsimony and refutability quiz.